Can I use my iPad instead of sitting at my
Yeah, you can use
desktop?
your iPad, but we don't want you to have two devices on at the same
Well,
time.
that's it. I'm gonna log
So
off
as
there.
soon as you go on the iPad, then just turn off the computer
Yeah, okay.
because it creates a it creates like that. That means we're live, you guys. So
Thank you.
all right, don't be late. Mary, go right ahead.
Yeah, this is kind of related. Since I got the new iPod, I'm thinking I would like to rename some of my devices, like the old phone, and make so that it's easier to track. First of all, I need to know if there's any disadvantage to doing it or what's entailed, and and then how to do it.
Great, because you probably have like it says iPad something, and then it'll be
Yeah.
number one or number two and stuff. It's really, really simple on iOS devices. I don't recommend changing your username on Mac device on Macs, but I'm going to show you. Actually, I'll bring up my
No,
phone here.
I'm talking about the device name.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay. Okay. Sorry.
That's the only name you got. So let me go to Reflector here. Oh, great. What happened? Let me get it back on.
And I'm guessing many people have the problem. You start having lots of devices and you can't. Is that
Okay, so in your iOS device, whether it be
mm-hmm,
iPad or iPhone,
mm-hmm,
go to Settings,
mm-hmm,
General, which is right here,
mm-hmm.
and then click About. And right there, you can click on that and name your phone whatever you want, or name your iPad whatever you want.
Does it mess anything up? Does
Not
it
a bit.
Okay. That was why I didn't kind of research it. I want to make sure it didn't screw with anything. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one kind of, and this one Al might know. When I got the iPad, the old iPad covers you just had a front cover for the screen. This new one has a back cover, and it's just bulkier, and I'd rather just have the screen. Do they not
Is
make?
it an Apple one or did you get a
Yeah,
different?
I got it through Apple.
Yeah, well, there's tons of different ones out there. Are you using a keyboard with a cut? Do you need a
No,
keyboard or not?
nope.
Okay.
Because I
Then,
just like that magnetic stuff.
well, then what I recommend is I use a really thin cover that covers it and has a face cover. It's magnetic, and then when you open it up, it becomes a stand for it, and
Right.
it's not fancy, and it's really thin, and it's wonderful. I'll pull up and just give you an example.
I
Um,
couldn't find them because that's what you used to get all the
yeah,
time.
yeah. Well, and you also need a tempered glass screen protector, which is super important.
Okay, that was the other question.
So
Thank you.
let me go here, and we're going to go to Amazon, and we're going to go. If I go here and I'll say iPad um, cover. So so let's just talk about these different ones. So ones like this, it's a big heavy case on the back. The ones that look like this, if you want something just slim and trim, this is wonderful. We'll get a different color to make it easier to see. So what happens is it's a very simple polyethylene ABS case on the back. And then this magnetic cover can fold up and allows it to go into easel mode. And you can get these for under $20. But you want to get it for your, and the best thing is the magnet on it that holds it up like this also unlocks it. Now, that's a simple case, and that keeps the iPad very slim and trim. But if you want iPad cases that have keyboards, Apple is the best. Logitech makes some good ones, but I really think Apple has the best ones on that. And it's so important that whatever case you get, if you decide to do a keyboard case, if you decide to do one with a keyboard, somebody has two devices on.
I am, hold on.
Louise, you can't have two devices on at one time. Okay. So if you get one that's a keyboard, you want to get the Apple one or even the Logitech, but they're powered by the battery in the iPad, because otherwise you're having to charge that thing all the time too. And then the other thing is, I really believe in Spigen for their screen protectors. And I'll give you a little tip on it. Spigen, here, iPad Pro 13 screen protector. So the nice thing is, if you go with Spigen, well, they say most of them are case friendly, but you want what's called 9H, which is the hardness. And you don't want plastic. You want hard tempered glass on it. And I recommend always buying a 2-pack, because if they offer it, because you may screw up the first one. And if you only buy one, you'll mess up the first one. If you buy two, you'll put the first one on just fine. But a lot of them have now, they have these jigs that they go on with, and that's important. So I do that with my iPads, my iPhones, and I have it before I get the device. And you do the screen protector first and then do the case. So, but I like Spigen, but as far as the slim and trim iPad case, here's the Spigen one, and you can see it has this template right there. So that's a jig where you just set it down on it and then you pull the tape and it puts the glass on just perfect. You have to make sure the glass is clean.
Right.
But that's good. And on an iPad, I would say that getting a 2-pack isn't as critical. And these are going to be much more than that at the place right outside the Apple Store or the Apple Store. So, I highly recommend that. So,
Thanks for the tip.
yeah, you bet. Okay, Barbara, question.
Yeah, actually, this is kind of the perfect timing for it. I can't find a way on Amazon to add a new device. So when I get an ebook and I want to have it downloaded to my iPad, the only option I get is a Kindle or the one iPad that I have registered.
Well,
And
well,
I've been
now,
under accounts and
are you
devices and can't
doing
find a way to add it.
audiobooks or Kindle books?
I'm sorry?
Are you doing audiobooks or Kindle books?
It's a Kindle book, because what happens is I have this thing and you order a book. And I used to have a Kindle, but now I don't anymore. And I used to have the Kindle and my couple of iPads in the household registered. But now I can't find a way to add the additional iPads.
Well, all you need to do is add it to the Kindle. And if you go to the Kindle app, you add your devices there.
So go to the Kindle app on my iPad and add a device there.
Yeah, and I think in your account you can manage your Kindle too. But as long as you buy the book from Amazon in the Kindle, your Kindle app should be signed into the exact same one. You don't have to say like add to that. It just adds it to the Kindle, and then you can access from your Kindle app on your iPad. You can access your Kindle account in your Kindle library. I use audiobooks, so I'm a little different. If anybody else has any input on that, feel free to
Yeah,
jump
we have
in.
more than one iPad in the household.
Well,
And
it doesn't matter. It goes to all of them.
no, it won't. That's the problem, is it doesn't.
Well, then they're not signed into the Kindle account.
That's what I'm having trouble with, is signing in and adding it to
The
the
Kindle account is the same as your Amazon account.
Yeah.
There may be limitations if you have too many, but just, I don't know what the limit is on that.
No, we used to have like 3 or 4 devices scheduled. We had two Kindles on there and 2
Yeah, you're
iPads.
just not signed so here, part of the reason this is so kludgy is because Apple charges, if you were to buy that Kindle book through the app, Apple would charge 15 or 30%. So
Okay.
Kindle gets around that by making you order it in Safari, and then it's put into your essentially a cloud account is what Kindle is. And then you have to be signed into the Kindle app account, and then you can access anything you have in your library. You cannot buy it from the Kindle app, so that therefore they're not, that's how, and Apple would like to be a little easier on that with them, but the problem is if you make an exception for one developer, you're going to make it for the other. So this works very well. And you just have to, you buy it in your Amazon account and
Yeah.
say for Kindle, and you don't have to specify a device. And then you go into your device, and the only reason you would specify a device is if you want to push it to download to it. But otherwise, just go to the device, sign into the exact same Amazon account,
Okay.
and it will show up in your library. And at that point, you have the option of downloading it.
And I
Okay.
just checked, Kindle has a 6 device limit per
I
account.
was guessing 5. So thanks for that,
Yeah.
Bob.
Okay, so you just have to sign in from each of the iPad devices that I want it on. Sign into Kindle, sign into Amazon on that and have the Kindle
Your
app.
Amazon account inside the Kindle app.
Okay,
The Kindle app is the key, because that's how you read the book.
right, right. So you have to open the Kindle app first before you go to Amazon, is that right?
No, you
So-
have, okay, let's talk about this process. I'll go back over it. Let's say you're in Safari on your Mac, or even
Okay.
Safari on your iPad, and
Okay,
you're in your Amazon account and you order a book and you click Kindle for it. Okay. You
Yeah.
have now purchased that.
okay,
And then if you want to read the book, so it's in your library, it's in the cloud in your library, it's not downloaded to your devices. But if
okay,
you go to any device, including you can read it on your computer. But if you go to your Kindle app
okay,
and you sign into your Amazon account, and your entire Kindle library shows up there, and then you determine if you want to download it to that device. And obviously you don't want them all. You don't want the books you've read and things like that, because that just takes up space.
right. Okay,
And then they're there. And then once you've read it, you can take it off the device, but it's still there in the cloud, and you can still go get it if you want to read it a second or a third time.
okay. Great. What was
And that's just
confusing is
because that's how it works, because of the Apple App Store.
Okay, yeah, what was confusing is I don't have the Kindle anymore, and so I didn't realize that you had
Yes,
to
you do.
buy it through Kindle.
Yes, you do. You have the best Kindle going. You have an
Mhm.
iPad with the Kindle app.
Okay,
The only
okay,
downside to that is, and this was years ago when Kindles came out and then they did it on the iPad, there was somebody said that, yeah, the problem is, the original Kindle is so light and the iPad's kind of heavy because it was a color screen and everything else, that when you fell asleep and it hit you on the nose, the original Kindle didn't hurt as bad. Which is pretty true when you think about it.
okay, thanks.
All right. But I mean, the Kindle app on an iPad, for all intents and purposes, is exactly what a Kindle is.
Okay,
All right, good.
thanks.
Okay. Any other questions before we go on? And Al, like usual, is putting in all kinds of great links in chat, and how to use the Kindle app, everything else. So it's wonderful. And all right. So any other general questions before we get up, Q&A type questions before we dig into mail? Love it or hate it? Anybody? Okay, good deal. let me pull the keynote up. Excuse me. So we're going to be going into mail and all its points and settings and things like that. And I'm going to do it on the Mac and on the iPhone because I know that generally speaking, everybody has an iPhone, but not everybody has a Mac, or we're using the Mac less and less. iOS is really more of the thing. So hang on here. Keynote, view, enter full screen. Fantastic. All right. Well, we've started the recording. So I really, really try to de-geekify everything. So if I have any big words that sound fancy and all that, don't hesitate to ask and I'll explain. I'm going to reiterate this slide again because this is really, really important. If you are using Yahoo, AT&T, or sbcglobal.net, or even Comcast or any of those others, you should get away from it. But these three in particular they absolutely suck. Really, they absolutely suck. So if I was using any of these for my primary email, I would be getting worried and I would try to find an alternative. It doesn't mean you have to stop using them and you'll still get stuff into them, but I would seriously reconsider them. Well, no, not seriously. I would get away from them as your primary email because it's broken. The system is broken so bad. The Yahoo's been sold. Yahoo is services AT&T and SBC Global. It's been sold 3 times. It's now with a private equity group. And as I've told before, I had a client that we spent over 5 hours over 2 days for them to just install sbcglobal.net on a new Mac. And luckily it still worked on the old ones and it never got accomplished. And it's just, they are absolutely broken. And then as a business model, they're giving you, quote, this free email. And in our case, they spent 5 hours of some of their customer service personnel and still didn't accomplish it. And it's a microcosm of what's going on out there. Can you imagine being a company and will have probably, when you look at remote service like that, that probably costs that company $100 an hour between the employee and everything else. So I think that it's, I don't know how long it is for this world. So anyway, I'm going to show you ways to make it so it's less critical and what you can do accordingly. So when we talk about mail, we all get junk email. We get very specious email that could be trying to get you to click on this link here, like this blind link, and it makes it look, this was in the days, this was back in 2014, but it's now it would say Apple Music instead of iTunes, but it's totally bogus. You hover over this little button and that's the actual address. There's nothing in there that says apple.com. Okay. And what's actually funny is Apple is no longer and hasn't been on that address in a long time. So just a few of these. You'll get it from Amazon. They make it look really good, but this one, in fact, was a legitimate email on the top, but it still could send you to nefarious places. So look at this one. This is Luxembourg. You also can get pop-ups in your browser. And these pop-ups, and now they get it and they say, don't close this page. You've been infected, blah, blah, blah. you know what? This is just basically a pop-up ad. And don't ever call that 855 toll-free number, because it will take you to what I call is a farmer. And that farmer is trying to harvest your credit card information. And they'll say, well, we can fix the problem for $329. And you say, great, okay, fix it. Then well, first they bring up on your screen and show you a bunch of scary stuff. And then these are always fake. Shut it down and go ahead. I mean, look at this from mac-tech-alerts.com. Well, we know that's not Apple. Your Apple ID has been disabled for security purposes. It's bogus. This isn't it. What you do is, whether it's your bank, whether it's Apple, whether it's Amazon, you log into your account like normal. And if you have a problem logging into your account like normal, then yes, you can dig deep and find out what the issue is. Yes, sometimes you're logged out for security purposes, but at least that one's not an email. Same thing here from safarialert.info. Oh, geez. And rootkits. And I mean, they're too geeky for them themselves. They should put this in real. To provide error code, rootkits, blah, blah, blah. It's always fake. Now, if you can't quit Safari, you need to force quit Safari. And that's where you click on Finder or something else and go up to the Apple logo and come down and go to force quit and force quit Safari. And at that point, restart your computer. When your computer comes back up and you go to click on Safari, hold down the Shift key, and that will kind of clear everything out of Safari, and you should be totally fine. But again, remember, restart your computer. These are fake, but they may persistently show up unless you clear it. Yeah, FBI, you get the ones for IRS. They're what they're doing is they're playing on FUD, your fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is one that an Apple actually ex-Apple employee and one of the techs up here at Sun City Lincoln Hills got this, and this was this was in January. And if you'll notice up here at the top, customer service. Well, that doesn't say chase.com, and they're just banking. Now that's a terrible pun. I'm sorry. They're counting on the fact that there's a lot of people out there that have Chase bank account. Oh, it also says, or US Bank. It's wrong. These are totally fake. Don't respond to them. But when you hover on that email up there, you can see that's not a legitimate email. Barbara, go ahead and ask your question. After you unmute yourself.
Sorry. What did you say about the shift key after you start up Safari, after you've restarted your computer?
When you restart the computer, hold down the shift key and continue holding it when you click Safari to fire it up. It cleans out any of those old pages that were there.
Okay.
And it should make it. Most of the time it'll work fine without doing that. But it just, it doesn't hurt anything to do it, and it will help.
Okay.
So also you get non-nefarious spam. In other words, this is just crap. And it's stuff that, and how to deal with it. Well, there's, oops, my fault. There's most spam, if it's from a legitimate company, will have an unsubscribe. And you can do that if you'd like. But if it's from a company that's less, and maybe not in the US, and it's not a legitimate company, do not unsubscribe, because then they have just verified that you are a valid email address. So in Apple Mail, on our iOS device or on our Mac, you can tell it it's junk. And if you tell it it's junk, if stuff comes from that same address, it will put it in your junk folder and it'll bypass your inbox. So that's one way of dealing with spam. So, and of course, spam is the state meat of Hawaii. This is actually one that came recently to someone I know, and it'll be giving you all kinds of, oh, this is a warning, block, blah, 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 blah. Warning, 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 Will Robinson. So these are always fake. And these are just essentially pop-up ads trying to get your information.
Has been locked up. Your IP address was used without your knowledge or consent to visit websites that contains identity theft virus. To unlock the computer, please call support immediately. Please do not attempt to shut down or restart your computer. Doing that may lead to data loss and identity theft. The computer lock is aimed to stop illegal activity. Please call our support immediately.
And we'll be happy to take your money. And then once you pay us one time, we'll put your credit card, we'll sell it out on the dark web, and everybody will have your credit card number. So don't do that with these people trying to get your information. And they can make any website look official. They can make it just look just like an iCloud account or an Apple ID account or an Amazon account. It's really easy to replicate those web pages. So anyway, any questions on spam or any of that stuff before we dive into the Apple Mail app? Okay, let me get my paperwork here. All right. So mail, love it or shoot the computer, I mean, we're going to try to make mail a little more manageable. And everybody has their own way of dealing with mail. Myself, as a consultant, when I go work with people, the worst thing in the world I should do is to go out and try reinvent someone's workflow, because you have a workflow. We're older. It's hard to learn new things. So I can help you with tips and tricks, but I don't want to reinvent your workflow because that's just not wise. That being said, we all get a lot of email, and how you deal with email is your choice. I find that in most households, you'll have one person in the household that saves everything and they manage it well. It works for them. And you have the other person in the household wants to have a zero inbox. And then it's like, well, Ken, which is better? Well, which is better is whichever one works for you. And there's pluses and minuses to both of them. So this shouldn't be a revelation here and okay, I'm going to clean up my mail now. You know what? Mail is a daunting task. Make it easy, but don't make it tough on yourself. I want to show you some ways to try and make it easier. And my particular email is less than elegant. And I think I'm up to 655,000 emails between all my email accounts. And for me, that works just fine. But I'm not saying that works for everyone, but I'll give you an example. So first of all, by keeping all my emails, I've saved money on things where I had to maybe send a return. Actually, I have a Travel Pro luggage, piece of luggage that's lifetime warranty that got messed up and after 6 years, and I was able to go back and find my original receipt on it and my original communication on that. So in that case, it benefits me. I don't organize my email except for special things. I make mailboxes, and we're going to show you how to make mailboxes to store stuff that I need to get to at a specific time. Like every year, I create a mailbox, and any information that comes in that I need to recount come tax time, I put it in my, like currently, my 2024 tax mailbox. So anything that comes in that's a receipt or anything like that, I put in that. I also do the same thing because I have a scanner, and I scan any documents that come in by regular mail and put it the same way. That's the one time I file. Also, like I have the Great Race coming up. We're leaving in 2 weeks actually. And any of the hotel reservations and things like that, I put in that because I want to be able, when I check into a hotel, I want to have that real quick. I can find it in a folder rather than having to search my entire mail database. So those are the only times I really do it. I also, it's nice because since I travel a lot, I can go back in, and I had a mailbox thing for Budapest, and I have some friends that are going to Budapest, and I was able to pull out some of that other stuff in there. So I'll point out, I have a couple clients that do the zero inbox. So I mean, sometimes I'll look at their computer with them and I think, gosh, is your mail not working? Well, no, they've cleaned out their inbox completely. And most of the people just delete a lot of stuff, but a lot of them file into mailboxes. And that's very beneficial. But I can give you a use case scenario where it wasn't very good. I had a client email me and say, hey, you sent an email 2 weeks ago about something. Forget what it was. And they said, do you still have that? And I knew exactly, remembering this client, that they were a zero inboxer. I'm going, yeah, that person deleted it. So I said, well, yes. And you remember we talked about it, and you thought it was crazy that I have all these emails, but now you're asking if I have a copy of the email that I sent you. Did you delete it? Knowing what the answer was. And of course, they deleted it. So I very smugly sent them the thing back and said, well, here it is. So anyway, it's all how you deal with it. I have a very full box. I guess I'm a hoarder when it comes to email because I'm an information junkie. And to me, there's information in there. Now, that doesn't mean I don't delete spam and things like that. But to be honest, I don't even waste time on that. I don't even open up the spams and things like that. And most of the time, I just don't even delete them because it's a time suck. And when you get over 300 emails a day, you've got to be able to go through them somehow. So Randy asked a question in the chat. Just below email heading, is it okay to click the quote unsubscribe button next to the mail app icon that says this message is from a mailing list? Well, yes, as long as it's from a legitimate, it's just like the unsubscribe at the bottom of the email. It does the same thing. And if it's a legitimate email from a real US company, they have to have one button, unsubscribe. And yes, you can unsubscribe if you want. But let's say it's somebody that you only decide around the holidays that you buy stuff from them. Let's say it's LL Bean or somebody like that. Rather than unsubscribing, you could use your junk folder as a tool. So what the junk folder is, it's not unsubscribing, but what it's saying is, if anything comes from LL Bean, from marketing, now usually if you had a shipment, it's going to come from a different email. But the advertising part of, and I'm just picking LL Bean as an example, the advertising department will have a different email. So if you say send it to my junk, it'll go to your junk folder. And then the nice thing is if around Christmas you have a family member that's a fan of LL Bean and you want to get them something for the holiday, you can go in and see the most recent LL Bean ads because they'll be in your junk folder. I'll give you an example of that. When the Apple Store used to be on the second floor in Arden Fair, when it was upstairs in the early days, a little story behind that, that was a very early Apple Store. And at the time, Dell and Gateway had just were closing all of their retail outlets. Well, Apple went to the malls and says, well, we'd like to have some retail presence on this. And none of the original Apple stores had really good locations because the mall operators looked at it like, oh man, all these other computer places have failed and, it's going to be terrible and all that. So that's why Apple got that near the center of the mall by J.C. Penney, and they were upstairs, right? So anyway, and then it became that since then, all the mall operators now they give Apple great billing. And in fact, they always do that as the thing. Yes, we're getting an Apple store to attract other retailers because they know that the Apple stores are such foot traffic drivers that it's really beneficial to have an Apple store there. So it's interesting how all that changed. But transitioning back to the story is I used to I'd park on the second story and go through J.C. Penney to get to the Apple store because that was easier than going in the front and you got good parking up second story on the parking lot. And what I would do is I subscribed to the J.C. Penney ads. And so therefore, if I knew I was going to go to the Apple store for something, I would go into my junk folder because I told it to go to junk. And I would only view the most recent ad because that's the only one that's pertinent. And I would look at that before I went to the Apple store. And therefore, I used my junk folder as a tool. And you can make your junk folder be that way. Now, never ever say that email is junk if you ever want that to show up in your inbox again. For instance, let's say you have a friend that emails you wait a few too many jokes or something like that, and you tell it it's junk. Well, their email is all going to go into junk at that point. So it won't even show up in your inbox. It'll bypass your inbox and go to junk. So be careful with the junk button. But also, if it's one that you don't want to unsubscribe to because it might be nefarious, tell it it's junk, and it'll remember anything from that address and put it in your junk folder. And there's a setting we'll get into later where you can take your junk folder and tell it to empty after 30 days. And by the way, you will occasionally get false positives. I've found stuff in my junk folder that I didn't want to be junk. And you have to go in and tell it it's not junk and move it into the inbox. Bev, go ahead with your question.
Well, you kind of just answered it. So if you declare something junk, everything will go, but you can, when you move something from junk into the inbox, is that a one-time only, or you cannot unjunk?
Yeah, you can unjunk it when you go to the bot in the box. You can tell it it's not junk.
Okay.
I recommend though you search within your junk folder and look for other versions from that same address and make sure they're all unjunked because it seems to have a propensity to sometimes if it sees it in the junk, it'll put it back into the junk. But you don't just move it to the inbox. You tell it it's not junk. And when it's in the junk, you can tell it's not junk. When it's not in the junk, you can tell it it's junk. So that's how you would deal with that.
All right.
And it is specific to each device.
Mm.
So, and the other thing is just the junk can be a good tool, like in the J.C. Penney or the LL Bean kind of situation. All right, so we're going to dig into the Mail app, and we'll do the live demo, the greatest risk anyone will ever take. It's like a tightrope wire. Okay, so All right. So this is one of my email accounts. So first off, I want to talk about the search functionality. So let's see here. Inboxes. 300, 400. Why isn't it showing all of them? That's interesting. Okay, here we go. So up here in search. So let's look for, I'm going to search, I'm going to look for the word engaged, like here in this. So I search for, I just click on it. And then these are kind of recent ones I may have looked for, but I'll just type in engage. So it goes in it and I say engage. Well, there's Tesla, Canva, engage, and all of these, or subject contains, or the attachment. If you had a PDF attachment, it will read through that and tell you. So what I can do is just hit return or enter here. And this is everything that has the word engage in it in all my inboxes. But let's say I wanted to just search my MacNexus demo inbox. There's engage, there it's in the title, but in these, if I went to here, check your app, and there'll be the word engage here somewhere. So, and then when you go back to look at your mail like normal, don't forget to hit the X to get rid of the word, because otherwise you'll go, well, where's all my email? So that's the search options. My next thing on my list is, and by the way, like I said, it will search inside if you have a PDF in there. Let me do this one. Let's say icon. Yeah, it's going to be attachment contains icon. So in other words, here is an email and the word icon is in this PDF attachment. That's the icon ski passes. Actually, if you're a skier, this is a really good thing. I make this spreadsheet every year with the comparison of these passes. So you can reach out to me if you're a skier, you can do that. Okay, we're back to our MacNexus email. So filters. Oh, you know what? And I'm gonna go right to this. I'm gonna go over to the iPhone. Go ahead, Barbara, ask your question.
Yeah, can you search for two terms at once to narrow the search? And if so, how do you do that?
Yes. You can put both words in, or if it's a phrase, you surround them with quotation marks.
Okay,
Okay. MacNexus demo at iCloud. There we go. So on the phone, we pull down from the center and we expose this search. So I'll do the same thing, engage. And then there's suggestions down here, or if I just hit search or return, these would be everything that has the word engage in it. In all my mailboxes or in current mailboxes, which I currently am on my MacNexus demo box. So that's the difference there, current or that. And then you can just hit that and hit cancel and you're back out. So the filters. So so you'll notice on the screen, I have blue dots and I have no dots. The blue dots mean it's unread, and the lack of a dot means it's been read. Well, down here at the bottom, there's this filter. And if I tap that, it now has eliminated my already read messages. It is filtered by unread. And what's interesting is this will, just from clicking around, it will inadvertently do this sometimes. So if you see this and if it's bright blue, just make sure you hit away like that. Okay. Let me look at my list again here. So that's oh, and on the Mac, it is filter. You click filter right here. And that is now filtered by unread. You see how it got rid of any of the ones that were currently read. READ, not RAD. Okay. So flagging emails, I don't flag emails, but let's show you how you can do it and what happens. And actually, by default, this is not usually there. So by the way, on the Mac, there's two ways to view your email. There's this way, which is actually classic. And oh, that's not it. So this is bottom preview where you click on this and you see it down here. And the other way, I can't get it back to the way I used to have it. Oh, I unclick column layout. So this is the way where you have your inboxes here. Then you have all your mailboxes and whichever one you're on, and then this way. This is a way that I've been doing it most recently. So you have that view, or if you go up to view and you say use column layout, and that's where you have this way and it previews down here. And there's one other way to view that then too is show side panel, where you can reduce this column layout. And if I click on an email like that. Okay, Barbara, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I was looking at that filter on my phone that you mentioned, and I noticed that it says I have an unsent message. Is there a place that you go to find that? And know, so you know what didn't send and you can redo it?
Yeah, it's going to be in your, it's a good question. It's in your outbox. And let me see though, I think,
And where's that?
well, hang on a sec because I'm letting mine
Oh, I
refresh.
see.
I think it's in
Might be-
drafts, isn't
You
it?
might be, well, no, a draft is not an unsent.
That's
So see, I used to have one on my phone and for some reason it's
Yeah, I
gone.
just found it. I went back to where it lists all the different mailboxes. And
Yeah, and
under
it
those,
says
it says
outbox.
outbox. Okay.
Yeah, but you might even be able to click at the bottom. So what happens is when something gets stuck in the outbox, it can be one of two things. Either that mail account didn't work then, it could be too large of a file, a video or too many mails on it, or you could have misaddressed the address and it's not a valid address. So you can verify that. And then when you fix whatever it is, you can then hit send.
Yeah, sometimes I get a message like it says something like the server isn't set up or something like
Yeah,
that.
so many times when you do that, you quit mail and start it again, and that's what it takes.
Okay.
And if anything, like always, just reboot the phone. Okay, Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, in the column format that you're currently showing, it would look better if you full screen, but I can still see it. I'm just getting up close to the screen, but I added another, how do you add things to the column format for my mother-in-law?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that
Okay,
right
good. Size
because we were talking about flagging.
Yeah.
So up here I have the columns, and if I use the control key or it's called secondary click. Control click or two-finger click if you're on a trackpad, or right click if you're on a mouse. But I hover over here, I click on any of the columns. It won't change the current column. But if I click there and I say, show me flags, and now you'll notice flags came up right here. Flags wasn't there before. That got it?
Ken, where's the list of options for columns?
When you control click on it, you get them right here.
Is there anything under view or any of that?
No, these
Okay.
are columns, either names of columns. And they all show up. If they're checked, they're all going to show up. So, you know, and like this one, the one on the left here does your sort order, flags. You could have one if you wanted to see the attachments, for instance. So obviously nothing in this account has attachments. So I'll do that and I'll undo flags. Okay. And flagging an email, you can just click on the email itself and you can say flag and you pick the color. And I'll go ahead and pick that one. So now when I go back and say show flags, you can see. And of course, you can sort by flagged if you wanted to. Okay. On the iPhone, it's a little different. And they just show up on the mail itself. And you, when you click and hold, let's get that up. Oh, why is it not? Oh, I'm in full screen is why. Randy, that's why I can't stay in full screen. Oh, come on. Keeps timing out. While I'm doing this, Keith, go ahead with your question.
The I use my email almost exclusively on my studio desktop. But I recently had, in order to use an iPhone app, I had to put my email account onto my iPhone. So now that all the emails sent to that email account comes to both my iPhone and my computer. So if I delete or read an email on my desktop computer, does it delete or show as read that same email on my iPhone?
Most of the time, and it depends on your email account. Is it a Gmail account?
No, it's from our
It's
telephone
Sebastian.
provider.
Yeah, then it probably won't. It may not, because it has to do with what's called either POP or IMAP in its protocol. And that means whether it's completely interactive or not.
Okay.
So what happens with POP, and that's the older type account. Some of the old Sure West accounts are that way too. What it does is the device reaches out and looks on the server, and if it sees an email, it will go grab it. But the options then on your device are to, once you get it on your device, do you want it to delete it from the server? And that can be yes right away, or after 30 days, or never. And that affects that. But what happens is, instead of showing, if you delete it on one device, or it gets marked as read on one device, it is not completely interactive on the other. I would think that on the phone, it would probably be interactive because it's almost never POP. And you should try it out. Send an email to it and then go on your phone and just read it on the phone, or delete it on the phone and, fake one, and then go ahead and see if it deletes it at Sebastian Corp.
Okay, great.
And then do the other way. More than likely, it's your computer that's set up as POP. Most mobile devices don't have POP. It's a legacy way, but it's also, and there's a way to handle that with what's called your server settings and POP. But you know, since this is a specific case, yeah, I would, uh, don't rock the boat. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. And the only problem is with POP is it downloads the emails to your device, so it takes up room. Whereas with IMAP, which is what iCloud and Gmail use, it's completely interactive and it doesn't fill it up. POP stands for Post Office Protocol. So,
Okay. So assuming I have the one I can't, it doesn't work with IMAP, then I need to just periodically go into my iPhone and delete all of my emails that I don't want there.
yeah, but I doubt they're taking up a lot of room. But well, no, because the iPhone may be IMAP, so you wouldn't have to, because it's not. It's you're actually viewing the server rather than viewing the emails. But I doubt your phone is set up with POP. If it is, then you would want to delete them to save room.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's an edge case scenario. So,
Okay.
all right, Bev, go ahead.
Yeah, how do I get, I'm on my Mac and I like that view that you have now, and I had that, but I looked at some of the others. How do I get back to that, to where I have the column of all the, the,
Sure. So
and
we
yeah.
go up to view
yeah,
and you say use column layout,
uh-huh.
which is this. And if you like it this way, that will be it. And otherwise, you can say show bottom preview, where you have column layout and then the preview of the email is down below.
But when I do column layout, I just get it all the way across. I don't get that box to the right. Or
that would be show side preview.
okay.
Once you're in column, click show side preview. Because a lot of people have it where they're just in column and they have to double click on each email to kind of see it.
Well, that was what was happening. I didn't have that, and now I
Yeah.
can't get back to that, to where I click on one and it shows.
Just go to view.
Yeah, column layout.
Yeah. And does it say, what's it say below that? Show bottom preview?
Uh-huh.
So click on that.
Yeah, and then it says no message selected, but
Well, that's okay.
yeah.
But now go up to view and it should say show side preview.
Right. Okay.
And that's,
So
that's what you want.
and so when okay, and I can move this bar back over, narrow it.
They're each one's completely, each column is adjustable.
But when I click on something,
and the divider is adjustable.
when I click on something under the inbox, it just says then it says I have to open again. I have to click.
No, you don't have to open anything. You have to just click it and highlight it. It's not really open. Opening it would be double clicking.
Okay. Okay. I was clicking in the wrong spot. I clicked in the middle. If I click to the left, it works better.
Well, you click anywhere along that.
Okay.
Okay. And you can always double click and have it come open too.
Hmm.
All right. So we're going to talk about organizing emails. Now, these are all called mailboxes. And there is the ability to do a thing called folders. It looks like a folder, but it's really a mailbox. And you can put a mailbox inside a mailbox. So I'm going to walk you through it on the Mac first, and then we're going to do it on the phone. So I have multiple email accounts. I have all of them are here, but the main ones are, well, first of all, you might have one that says on my Mac. The on my Mac, if you expand it, you really don't want to count on anything in there, because the problem is it says on my Mac, which means exactly that. It is only on your Mac. It won't show up on your iPhone. It won't show up on your iPad, and it won't show up on other Macs. It should say only on this Mac. So you don't really want to have anything in there. And you may have some legacy stuff in there, but you really want it in your interactive email boxes. And Keith, I have to say that it probably works on the POP. Do you have a Gmail address?
I have one Gmail address, yes, but I don't use it very often. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's going to be your real interactive one. And again, so let's all right, let's go back to the whole thing about depending on certain emails. Keith lives in a rural area, and he has pretty much an internet provider that provides the email for free. His has been very good because I have a couple other clients that use it, and one guy, he runs a multiple tens of $1 million business and uses that and his POP for it. And I in fact have to find old computers for him to use because he's using Netscape Navigator. But in fact, it's dependable. But the problem is if your email provider gets purchased by someone or they go out of business, just plainly, you're screwed. And if they didn't have good customer service all of a sudden, and yours does have good customer service, but you, I mean, if you think about how critical our emails are, to be dependent on something you kind of don't control would bother me. So we know Google is never going away. We know Apple's never going away. Yahoo, hey, I think they're short. I mean, a perfect example is down here. It used to be, it started out as Win First, then it went to Sure West, and then from Sure West it went to CCI, and now CCI says, yeah, we're not going to do TV anymore. What if they decided to say we're not going to do email anymore, and you're stuck with only having a CCI email address? So you really, 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 really want to make sure you have some good alternatives because nothing is certain. I remember years ago in the early days of the internet, when I lived down at Swallow's Nest down by the river, I had Comcast was my internet, was actually called At Home. And so you had an at home email address. And then it went and Comcast decided that, well, we'll have AT&T handle our email. So it was ATT email. And then it went back to At Home again. And then it went to Comcast. So it shifted like 4 times. And the problem was they're stupid about it, that they could have kept those other email addresses going active, but they didn't. They made people change it. Well, thank goodness at the time, and this was before Gmail, but thank goodness at the time I had registered a domain name that is kenspencer.com. So in this time when everybody else I knew had to change their email address 5 times in the span of 5 years, or it wouldn't have worked, I didn't have to because I had kenspencer.com. And so, and also an alternate at the time, I had an AOL email address, and I don't encourage AOL either because they got stuck in that same thing. While they were a pretty good email service, they're now owned by the same private equity group. By the way, Yahoo and AT&T and all those were serviced through Yahoo, and then that got bought by Verizon. So now you've got Verizon is providing email support for AT&T, which is a bit counterintuitive. And then it went on to this private equity group. So again, I just say you need to be a free agent that's not implicitly tied to an internet provider or a free email service that doesn't have a revenue generator. Okay. I just, it's so important. And if they send you an email and say, yeah, we're shutting down our email service in a month, then you've got to frantically go and change all your email, all your accounts everywhere that you have it. And inevitably you're going to forget 2 or 3. And then when you need to go log into that account, you're not going to be able to because you can't get a recovery email address. So again, it's really, really, really critical. And besides that, Yahoo and ATT and SBC Global get hacked more than any, and you get a ton of extra spam there just because you have that account. So let's go back to Bev Lauren's question, unless we addressed it already. Bev?
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't lower my hand. I'm still having issues, but we'll take it up at the end.
Well, I've always got issues.
Huh?
So, Keith, did you have a question?
I had a comment. When I first joined MacNexus 20 years ago, MacNexus provided an email account. And then a few years later, they said, we're not going to do this anymore. Go find yourself another provider. So
That's you know what? I hate to bring that up, but yeah, that's true to what it is. And for us, it really turned out. So it goes back to the days when MacNexus was an internet provider, and there weren't very many Mac email providers. And that decision was made not, it wasn't an easy decision for the board to make, but being a volunteer run organization and the lack of volunteers and the amount of money and actual tech support it took us to maintain that, we had to make that decision. So, yeah, and I mean, that's a perfect example. So,
And
Barbara,
if I can go back, maybe this is a quick one. I mean,
Barbara, you
okay, sorry.
have your hands up. Barbara, go ahead.
Yeah, mine is a two-part question, which is one, now or sometime in your talk today, can you show us how to create an Apple email account and can you create multiple Apple email accounts so you can have one for like just personal, family and friends and stuff and one for other stuff?
Well, Apple email is good, but I encourage Gmail.
Okay,
Apple has less snooping and things like that, but I think when I just, but it's either way, but either of those would be good. And if you want a private secure email, you go with like Proton. But and yeah, you can do Apple accounts, usually do it from an iOS device. You can I have multiple ones. I have MacNexus demo at iCloud.com. I have Lincoln Hills or LH Ski Club at iCloud.com. You can make multiple ones and have them there. You'll only want them for mail, though. You don't want to use them for any of the other iCloud services.
okay. And where do
Okay.
you go to create the account?
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit if
Okay.
we have time, and it's easiest done from an iOS device.
Okay,
So remind me at the end if we've still got time, because
okay.
we're hardly into this at all. Bev, go ahead.
Yeah, geez, let me silence that phone. Okay, I'm in the Apple on the Mac.
What's your
I
question? What's your question?
I can't get, when I select a email, it doesn't, I get the window of open.
Well,
Or
it works fine on here. Yours is a particular anomaly. If it doesn't work out later, let's address it rather than
okay,
taking.
yeah, it was working and I did something.
Okay, we're done. We're done.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So let's continue on for everybody. And organizing the mailboxes. When you add a mailbox on the Mac, and we'll show how to do it on the phone, you go up to the word mailbox and come down and say new mailbox. Don't make a smart mailbox because they're not. You click new mailbox and you're faced with this. Well, since I was already in this account, it did this. So let me go back as if I was in all inboxes. And now I say new mailbox. So the first one that comes up is on my Mac. We don't want to use on my Mac. So what I do here now is I have to go find whatever email box I want to put it in. And I have to pick, and I'll say MacNexus demo. Well, and that's the Gmail, not the iCloud. So we're going to go to the iCloud one. And I already have one there called test. So I'll call it test 2. I'm really creative. So I'm showing it what account I want to put it in, and then I name the mailbox. So I click OK. And now if we look over in I'll shut these. not my Gmail. There we go. MacNexus demo. You can see I have one called test 2 over here. Now, once they're in here, I can move them. If I put it over the other one, it puts it as a mailbox inside a mailbox, like a folder. You really don't want to do that. So I'll put that one up there. And now test 2 is my new one. And you can see there's nothing in it. So if I go to my inbox in MacNexus, and I want to take, for instance, this party of the century, I can drag it, click and drag, and drop it into test 2. So now it's no longer in my main inbox, but it is in test 2, and it shows up in searches and everything else. So on the iPhone, I wish this would not time out. Okay. In this case, if I go back and I go to mailboxes on the main screen and hit edit, I can go down here and say new mailbox in the lower right here. Tap that, and then I choose the location. And I won't go through all of them because I have so many to go through, but I would put it in the same account and I could name it that way. So that's how you create new mailboxes to do stuff. So I'm going to go back and get on our MacNexus at iCloud. Okay. What I want to point out, one other thing that I find very, very, very useful. It's called, Mary, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, okay, on my Google side, on the sidebar for mail, there's an inbox and there is
And
an
you're on a Mac or on an iOS device?
on the desktop.
Okay.
And there's also an archive, and the thing that
Okay, let's address that in a minute.
okay, and but part of it,
Let's address it in a minute because it has to do with your accounts.
okay,
Okay, so what I want to point out here is this thing. So I have this email that I sent to myself, and it's for the party of the century. Well, the party of the century, boy, that's good. And I'm going, okay. Well, when I'm hovering my cursor over it, you'll notice it lights up and it says, oh, when I click this, it's called a data detector. And do I want to see it in Apple Maps? It'll do that. It'll open it in Apple Maps or right here. And do I want to add that to contacts? Let's say Joe Doe. And only because I've added this before is why it's there, but you would add to contacts and we create a new contact with that. Or again, I click on it and I could open in Maps. So here's the phone number. So what I can do in the phone number, I can say, well, add that to Joe Doe in contacts. Or I can hit call and it'll call through my iPhone. Or I can do here and it'll do a text message. Or if you want to see what it says in large type, there it is.
wow,
So those are called data detectors. Is as you hover over them, they become this little thing. But then let's go one part farther. If I go here, it looks like that. Oh, it's a data detector. So if I click on that, it brings up my calendar for June 1st. And it looks to see if I have anything there. And it does all this. Boom. And I'm going to say add to calendar. Okay. And then it's open sesame to do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to the phone and I'm going to go to party of the century. And you'll notice here on the iPhone through Siri search, it says, oh, party of the century. Do I want to show that or add it to my calendar, just like we saw before? But if I go here and you can see faint underlining, so if I tap with my finger, it opens it up in Maps and shows me where that location is. Then I go back to Mail. Oops. Uh-oh. Oh, where did it go? Let's do this. Oh, I moved it out of my inbox. That's right. Hang on. Remember, I put it in test. Oh gosh, I'm going to move it back into inbox just to make it easier. So here's Party of the Century. So if I see the number there, if I press and hold on the number, oops, sorry, you can't see my phone. If I press and hold on the number, I get these choices. And there's the date. And it brings up create event. With that, we've already created the event. So now let me show you the cool thing about this. I'm going to go to my calendar on my phone. And here is Party of the Century. Okay, at 8:05 p.m. Now, if I tap on that and I see Party of the Century, but right down here it says show in email. Well, remember, there was a password to get in. And let's say that this party was 3 months from now. You may have forgotten the password, but if you hit show in email, oh, look at this. There's the password. Open Sesame. If you delete that email, it won't show up. Well, let's go back and look at this on the computer. Party of the Century. There. And if I go to my calendar for today, June 1st, is Party of the Century. I double click on that event and same thing. It shows the map, shows everything else. I can add to it whatever I want. And if I say show an email, boom, there it brought up that email, even though that email wasn't open at the time. So it's really key. And if you drive a Tesla and you make an event in your calendar with an address in it, when you get to your car, it will automatically navigate you to that address. It will show up in your navigation folder. So that's a key thing in Tesla. I'll show you what you can also do on your phone, which is a little Tesla tip of the day is if I'm in either Maps or Google Maps, let's say that, you'll notice there's a little share button right here. So if I click share, and then in my share sheet, I have my Tesla app. And if I tap that, it shared it to my car. So if I went out to my car, my navigation will be pointing to that. So let's go back to the big thing was here is though, by it making the appointment or the event from the email, then when you go click on this, you have the option to say show an email, links to that email, which is fantastic. So Mary had a question about archive. So here's the deal. Generally speaking, most emails, when you delete it, you want to delete it. Well, if you have a Gmail account, it's set by default to go to archive. And I'll show you how to change that. So if I go into Mail and I go to Settings, and this really only applies to a Gmail account. So I'll take one of my Gmails and let's see. So I'll click on my, well, let's do my MacNexus demo Gmail. Oh, and by the way, Keith, in settings here, you'll see these all say IMAP. And if yours on your Mac says POP in the accounts, it would say it underneath the thing. So make note of that. This is MacDemo. Okay, this is a Gmail account. So I click on accounts in a Gmail account. And then I go over here and I say mailbox behaviors. And in this case, I've changed it to trash. If I hit trash, it goes there. So that one may be doing okay. Let me look on my phone really quick. MacNexus. Oh, I don't have that one on my phone.
So what is the second thing? I went,
Hang on, I'm trying to get to a spot where I can display it.
okay,
If I go here to my Lincoln Hills Ski Club. Yeah, I'll show you the example on the phone here.
Okay.
So the setting is you have to tell it to go into, if you have a trash mailbox, instead of being archive, you want to tell it to go to trash.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And then erase deleted messages should be after 1 month. And the archive mailbox just leave like it is. So now when I go to an email for LH Ski Club, oh, and I also want to set my junk mailbox to delete after 1 month. So if I go here, let's look at what my LH Ski Club. Why isn't it letting me click there? Oh. Okay. Dance school app. So it still says, so you have an option up here that says archive or delete. You may not have had that until you set it. So now you just simply hit delete.
But Ken, on the on my sidebar, I have inbox and archive. And
Right.
I have found, I believe that if I delete something from the inbox, it stays in archive.
Unless you change the setting that I just showed you.
And okay, so
So you have to go into the settings,
right,
go to accounts,
yeah,
pick that account,
right.
and do you see trash mail? And then when you click that account, do you see mailbox behaviors?
I'm there.
And is there trash mailbox? What's it say?
It says Gmail trash.
Ah, interesting.
But it so do
Oh, hang on.
yeah, let me see. Then there's, if I click on it, there's a whole list of options.
Well, no, but you want it to be trash.
Right.
So,
And then there's a thing on the archive below it, the archive mailbox, and it just
right.
says all
And
mail.
that says Gmail all mail, right?
Right.
Okay. So let's go back out and
Okay.
then go to that account. And do you see at the top, it says archive and delete?
No, but I've changed probably because I
Okay.
changed
So the
my
way to change your header up here is you 2-finger click or control click, and you say customize toolbar, and you want to have delete up there.
so that if I, and that way I can delete it.
Or just drag the default one up here to the top.
Okay, and then
And always display icon and text instead of just icon so you can see it.
so that would be on the inbox or on the archive box. I mean mailbox.
This is your main header on your thing. This is the default toolbar for this header right here.
Right.
And that you have to set to make sure delete's there. If not, drag delete up there.
Okay, but it so that's fine. It just means I have to go to archive to delete anything.
No, put delete up there and you go and you delete it and it will go to trash and delete instead of archive. But I'm going to show you on the phone what happens
Oh.
too. Because it's different on the phone. It's specific.
Okay, I see what,
device.
I think I see what you're saying.
Okay. So Linda, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. Way back, I couldn't figure out how to do raise hands. So on my Mac, I have a ton of stuff. I
Yeah.
don't know where that's being stored or how I can save it.
Well, where do you think it's being stored?
Well, it's on my Mac, but where
Right. And
only,
that's it. It's stored on your Mac and only on your Mac.
yeah, but is it only stored in mail on my Mac?
It's yes. The only place it is in a
That's a
mailbox
problem for
and
me
it's on
because
your
I
Mac.
have,
So if you want anything out of that, you would have to go into that on my Mac
okay,
and whatever's there and drag it to where you want it to live in an interactive email.
okay, and then, okay, oh boy, okay. That's what I was afraid of.
And
Thank
then the beauty of it is, like if you have a Gmail account or something, those things will show up on all your devices then.
Okay, but I have to individually actually,
No, you could highlight them all and move them into your inbox on one of your accounts. You just drag them over to the inbox on that account.
okay. Okay,
But first of all, are they things you need?
yes,
Okay, and you want them to get interactive. And do you have a Gmail account?
I have Gmail and Apple, yes.
Yeah, so either one, I recommend Gmail for that.
Why?
Just because of their backups and the amount of storage space you have for free.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. That's important.
Okay. All right, now let's look at this situation on the phone. So I'm gonna go to my phone here and I'm in this one inbox. So when I go to the phone, yeah, what's this? This is something that's, yeah, so this is fake. This is a spam. So if I go here at the bottom, I have the archive mailbox and not a trash mailbox. See that? Also, when I go back to this mail, if I swipe from right to left slightly, I get this screen. And you'll notice it's a lavender archive instead of delete. And then I can also hit more, and then it's archive and all that. But I'm going to go change this right now. Oh, and by the way, if I swipe right, I have remind me and unread. Now, the default is if I swipe really hard to the right, it's going to go right to archive. And I really want to make that delete. So on the phone, I'm going to go here and I've got to go down to mail. And then I'm going to go to accounts. And in those accounts, the one I'm looking at is my skiclub.email. And then I click account settings. And under here, I then go to advanced. And under advanced, I say right here, move discarded messages into deleted mailbox. And that's what you want because archive doesn't delete it. Gmail wants to be more of a hoarder than me. They want you to keep all your email. Don't worry about this archive mailbox. That's if you did want to archive a message. It's all about here is where we want to make that change. So let's go look at that change now that we've done it. And I go back to mail. Now, if I swipe from, you'll notice that What said archive in lavender is now trash in red. Okay. This only applies to that device. I would have to make the same setting change on my iPad, and on my Mac, I would have to make the same setting change. Okay. Archive is still available under more, but I don't need it. And then actually, if I go into the message now, and now you'll notice in the lower left, it's now a trash can instead of the archive bin. So again, let's say how we got there. We go to settings, come down to mail, which is about 25 items down. Click mail, click accounts. Then we're you doing this one right here. And then you come down to account settings. And then under advanced. And change it from archive mailbox to deleted mailbox. Okay. While we're in settings on the phone, and then we're going to do it on the Mac next, I'm going to go all the way back to settings. And in the main settings, I'm going to come down to mail. And in mail, I want to go down here to, you'll notice, default account. Default account is, when it says default, it means if you create a brand new email on this device, which account do you want it to go from? And so if you have many accounts, you want this to be your main one. And many of you will not have this correct one. So you want to have it be the email you use the most. And you tap default account and you can see you have different ones you can use. I recommend it be the one you use the most because you can always change it when you're composing the email. But I think you'll find that some of you may have this setting if you're using Gmail a lot and it's set to your iCloud account or vice versa. So you want to do that. Another setting in there is right above it, signature. Now, a signature, because I'm encouraging a lot of you to get away from Yahoo, AT&T, Sebastian Corp, any of those email services that you don't have a lot of control over, you can create a signature either for all your accounts or per account. And you would say something like this, like, please update your address book for me and use this new either Gmail or iCloud account on that, and put that as your signature to the mail. And then when you send in mail from whatever account it is, it will go from that. Linda, did you still have a question or did I not lower your hand already? Lena, I'm sorry, Lena.
I guess I didn't lower my hand.
No, that's not your fault. That's fine. Good enough. And I'm sorry I called you Linda earlier.
No.
So in this same setting screen, there's one thing I really want you to put here is click on increase quote level and turn it off. That's that one where every time you reply back and forth, and the darn email keeps working its way across the screen. It's not good. And we're going to show you these things on the Mac here really quick. Okay, so let's go back to settings. So instead of system settings, like on the phone, it's system settings, you go to mail and come down to settings. And under general, under composing, actually, first off, in general, I want everybody to go to, on their Mac, if you're on a Mac now, go up to the word mail, come down to settings, click general. And most of you probably don't have junk selected here. If I've worked on your computer, you would have junk selected. But you want to have junk selected. In other words, when searching mailboxes, it's important that it searches junk because you might have someone that's supposed to be sending you an email and it inadvertently went into your junk folder and it wouldn't be finding that email when you went to search. I wouldn't worry about encrypted messages, but I would definitely worry about junk. So trash and junk should definitely be selected for search. as we go across, we're going to go to composing. In other words, when you compose an email, what do we want to happen? This is where, right down here, send new messages. And you don't want to go from most, whatever it says, automatically best account. You want to have it go from one of your accounts that you use the most. And you should set that. By the way, we have the new thing, and I think Louise may have asked that earlier about undo send. You can undo send and you can set that delay for whatever you want. I think 10 seconds is a little quick, 30 seconds. It's like, oop, I did something wrong. And you can undo the send delay on that. Now, next to composing, oh, I'm sorry. And the last one you want to deselect is increase quote level. You want that not selected. And Royce, don't write on your screen. It's showing up for everybody. So let's see here. Barbara, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, after you've selected the account that you use most, what if you want to send an email from a different account? How would you do that?
I'll show you that in 1 second. Good question.
Okay.
So under signatures is what you do is you have to create the signature here in all signatures. You hit the plus and you create a signature. I wouldn't encourage using photos. It's really not the thing to do anymore. And it's hard to do. Royce, you need to turn off whiteboard on your computer on Zoom there. But let me see if I'll see if I can do it. Anyway, and then once you create the signature, you have to assign it to an account. Like, so I don't even have any for mine. And I'm supposed to have. Like, here's one with one of my quotes. You can't go forward by looking over your shoulder. Please start using my new email. Yeah, I thought I had one that just said Ken, but I'll create a new email and so that's my signature number. Oh, I'll bet you it's already, nope, signature 13. So I've created that and now I'm going to drag it to the email I want it on, which is my main one. I have to drag it here to this email. So this is the palette of all of them. And then you see now there's one signature there. Well, when I click on this email, I also then have to select that signature. And you could have a whole bunch of them where you would create at random, things like that. I'm going to modify this because it never gives enough spaces. So now it's done, it's been modified, it's fixed. And I'll show you how that works. So if I create a new email, a new message, let's say, well, with this new message, my default is this Gmail account, but I can change it to any of my accounts right there. It's going from my default, but if I want to change it, I can click and change that. And if I decided I didn't want the signature for this account, I can say none. Disregard this little whiteboard thing here. And you just fill it. Oh, I want to point out one other thing. BCC is not on by default. So you want to select, CC should be selected already, but also activate BCC. That way, from here on out, it will always be available to you. And don't get super fancy with your email for fonts and all that, because if the person doesn't have the font, it won't show up and it's least common denominator. Go ahead, Barbara.
I forgot to lower my hand. Sorry, I had a question about
No,
which account.
our co-hosts are supposed to be helping us out with that, but that's okay. I'll enlist Randy since he's here too, I think.
Yes, Al and I are both asleep at the wheel.
Well,
Sorry.
that's the content that's causing that. Because you guys are already email ninjas.
Ken, could you say that BCC thing again?
So by default, your email comes from Apple this way with no BCC. And you have to go up here to header fields and enable it. And now every time you do an email, no matter what account it's from, it will be there. So let's explain BCC, CC, and to. So normally you'll just send an email to someone. But many times you'll send email to a group. And there's two ways to handle groups. Let's say you guys are planning a potluck dinner where it's a group of 10 people, let's say. And you send it out and you say, okay, everybody reply back and let me know what you're bringing. So in that case, you would send all 10 people a CC. And you don't have to have anything in the two to use CC or BCC. All of these categories stand alone. But what would happen here is you would want everyone to see everyone else's email address in your group of 10, because I'm really smart. I pop up and say, I'll bring the salad, because that's one thing I know I can cook. And I would want to reply all, so everybody sees, well, Ken's bringing salad, because if all 10 people say they're bringing a salad, it's not too good of a potluck. So you want to have the reply all go to everybody. So in CC, everyone sees everyone else's email. Now, let's say you have same thing, a golf group, and you want to say, okay, we've got 2 tea times coming up. The first 8 that sign up get it. Well, then you do a reply all and all that. But let's say it's something where you're sending out an email to a group and it's just an informational email. And it would be, let's just say, about an event coming up, but nobody needs to sign up. They're just an FYI. You could send it to everyone in BCC. And when someone gets it, first of all, it looks like it was just addressed directly from you to them. And no one else would see anyone else's email address. That's a really good one for like a joke group or something like that, where you're sending it out and you don't want to have 20 different emails on that. Or let's say you are telling people about your new email address change. Well, you would send that as a BCC, so it looks like a private email from you to them. And that way, that's also how addresses don't get spread for all of these spam things. So BCC, and it's not required that you put anything in the CC or the to. They all stand alone. Mary, go ahead.
First of all, please use the BCCs when you're doing, I know some people do events, because I don't want my email to everybody and their brother. So
Yeah, that's common courtesy, but there are times,
no,
like I showed you, that it's functional and best to do a BCC.
it is, but there's a lot of
CC,
people who overuse it and don't
absolutely
use
no, and that's
BCC,
really
so
bad etiquette.
it
Super
is.
bad.
Thank you for showing that. I appreciate that.
So the other thing is, if you look at the to versus CC, that's many times, let's say you were sending something to one family member about something coming up, but you wanted to copy another family member. But it doesn't necessarily need to be a to. You could put both of them in it. But this way, the one person that it's to doesn't have to know to inform the other person, because they got a copy of it. So, and how this works, and I'll just provide a link. CC means either courtesy copy or carbon copy. In other words, send a copy of this. And think back to the old days when they would type a letter from the administrator and it would copy the vice president, let's say. Okay, so that's what a CC is. BCC stands for blind carbon copy or blind courtesy copy. I've always heard it as carbon copy, and the link that Al provided said that also. So that means blind carbon copy. In other words, you're copying everyone, but it's blind to everyone who else is in that list. And again, many people are under the assumption that if you use CC or BCC, you have to fill something in the other columns. You don't. BCC and CC can each stand on their own completely, just like 2 does. Okay. Now, the other great thing you have on a Mac is and this works on the phone also, if you have here's a test, let's say, I have one called test for demo. So if I go in to create an email, a new message, and I'm going to send it to a group as a BCC, if I start typing the name of the group, look at that, it fills in the group. And I'm typing the name of the group because in contacts, I have created a group. So test holiday. Well, that didn't work. So anyway, I didn't have anything filled in with it. But you start naming like, oh, I don't have a joke one. Test. Boom. So it fills in people that are in that group right there and it shows them. And you just start typing the name of the group. All right. Okay, I'm going to, let me see if I can clear this.
The caveat on that, Ken, is that you have to have created the group in your contacts.
Correct.
On
And
the Mac.
otherwise, you just start filling in the names. That's why I said it. Yeah, and that's a great point. But it definitely does you have to have it in there. Trying to clear this. I'm going to unshare my screen and then share it again. Great. Now I got rid of it. Okay. All right. Don't save. Let me look at my notes here. Ah, good deal. So again, on the phone, the same thing happens. Let me see if I have reflector back up still. Don't. In there, you have, I'm going to show you how to get to BCC and CC. It's a little different. Okay, in mail, I'm going to create a new email. And you'll see that it has the 2. And then here it says CC, BCC. I have to tap that. And then I have CC and BCC as an option. So I'm going to tap on that and I'm going to type test and test for demo. And in this case, look at this. It even tells me some of the names that are in there, which is kind of cool. You don't get that on the Mac. So if I hit test, it fills in all the names. Okay.
What you just said isn't showing up on your screen.
Are you not seeing my iPhone?
No,
Look,
we're only
no,
seeing
still
the
the
Mac.
computer, still the computer.
Oh, that's weird.
seeing the Mac screen of the mail.
Hang on. Are you not seeing this?
We
Now
see
we
it.
have,
Yes. Now,
yeah,
yes.
your phone now.
Okay. So again, if I go to compose, BCC, I tap that, and then I can go here and I can type test. And then it starts showing some of the names that are in that group. And if I just tap that, then there's my group again. Okay. All right. So I'll go back to mail. So here's one this is going to be worth the price of admission today. So if we go in here, so have you ever, we go and create a new message, and I think I have a bad one here. There we go. ABC 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's actually in even my group. Well, let me, so if I hit that, No, let's do this. Give me a second here. So in Apple Mail on your computer, if you go up to Window, and by the way, you should always use Apple Mail. Don't use the browser to read your emails. It's just the best. So if we go up here to the word Window, and we come on down and show previous recipients. This is previous recipients. So let me just look at something here that I don't need. So you'll notice there's a little silhouette by a name, and that shows that that person's in my contacts. So if I go, I want to see if I have anything ZZZ. Well, I'll just make up one here. So in your previous recipients, you can go in here like Tahoe UTV. I don't know where that came. That was probably in an email. But I could add this. I can either remove them from the list or add to contacts. Because inevitably you have misentered somebody at one time. And you can say, let's say the word C. So see if there's anybody in here I don't want. Yeah, anyway, but you can always go to this and then you click on this and you can say remove address, or it'll say show the contact card. Let me find somebody that's not in my. I gotta find somebody here. Yoast CR, let's do that. So if I click on this email, if I click here, I can say remove from previous recipients because they're not in the contacts. And so it removes that one from my previous recipients because what happens is if you have somebody in there, it will when you click on it, you mistakenly click on it, and then it remembers you did that, and so it makes it more of a priority to get rid of it. So anyway, it's how you can manage that list. And again, and I don't want to leave it exposed because YouTube likes to when we're giving away information here. But you go up to the word window, come down to previous recipients, and your whole list will be there. I want to show you one other thing under window that's really helpful on the Mac. You can go to Connection Doctor. And this will check and let you know which of your accounts are active and working. It'll be green, yellow, or red. And mine are all green. Luckily, all my accounts are working. And at the same time, look down here, and if you have log connection activity selected, you want to deselect it and then show logs because you may have gigabytes worth of worthless information being stored there. So if you have log connection activity, you want to then hit show logs, and you can see this is all just in that quick short time. This is nothing you need. This is only if you ever had to troubleshoot. But what I recommend is if it shows your logs, go in and delete these because I have seen these taking up 20 gigabytes of space and they're worthless. So I will turn it off. and I will delete them. But anyway, the big thing with this screen is, and it can save you a lot of space on your hard drive. And once you put it in the trash, delete it. So, and then this shows all the details of your different accounts and stuff when you click on one. All right, let me look through my stuff. Don't see any more hands. How we doing on time? Good. Filters. We talked about junk. So this is one thing on your junk folder. Let's go back to our mail settings on both devices. We'll do the iPhone first. So if I go here to the iPhone, I come down to mail, I come down to accounts. Now all of these settings are per account. So I'm going to go back to our iCloud account, and then I'm going to click on, actually that won't do it. Hang on. Go to a Gmail, we go to account settings, advanced, and oh, that's funny. Interesting. They've changed it. And
What are you looking for?
I'm looking for the junk mailbox setting.
Oh,
Because it's by default, it doesn't delete. Huh. Well, I'm baffled on this one. I can do it on the Mac. Huh. All right. Well, somebody might have to help me here. Let's do it. Let's show you on the Mac. So you go to settings, you go to whichever account it is. For instance, a Gmail account. And then you say junk mailbox. And it's telling it to put it into Gmail spam and then delete after 1 month. And the same thing with your trash mailbox, delete after 1 month. I don't like it to be sooner than that, and it will automatically delete without you having to do anything. And I think the same thing applies, yeah. So for like my iCloud account, oh yeah, and that's not doing it. I want to make sure after 1 month. See, I don't even have mine set up that way. After 1 month. I don't recommend any sooner than that. And that way it's going to happen automatically. All right, looking back. Okay, so we are talking about mail, but two of the things people do the most with mail is to send photos and send web pages. So first I'm going to go in and show you how to send a web page. So if you go to, well, for instance, let's say this was this Spigen tempered glass thing. I'm in Safari and I want to email this to someone. So I go up here to the very top and I click the share box. And when I click the share box, I get a choice of how do I want to do it. it used to be only email this page or email this link. So if I email the page, it's going to be like a picture of the page and a link, or just a regular link under email or in messages. And then of course, my most recent communications are right there. I can save it to notes, which is one thing. Whenever I'm planning these presentations and stuff, I do a lot of research beforehand and I save it in a note for that. I could airdrop it to someone or my other device if I wanted. I can add it a bookmark. I can add it to the reading list, which is a Safari thing. But let's just say here, I'm going to email a link to this page. So it fires up mail automatically and it puts all this information in there. And now I have the option here of saying show link preview. So that kind of lessens it and it shows this. So it's a little bit better for the other person, but I still usually just do the links and you address it to whoever it is. Now, don't want to save that or email it. So that applies to emailing or messaging a Safari page. Let's go and get a photo. Oh, here was hail at my house the other day, but this was my backyard not too long ago. Oh, this was the day we had the hail, yeah. So you can send multiple, you can always copy and paste and put these into different emails. But I like to do it directly from here. So let's do this. I'm going to go out here and I'm just going to grab these photos. Hey, there's my old Squaw Valley season pass from teaching skiing. And we'll grab a bunch of these. So I've now, oh, that's too many photos. I'll show you. So I'm going to go here, 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 and that one. So I've got 11 photos. So now I go up to the share button like we had in Safari, and I click that. And now I'm going to go and mail these. Well, when it fires up mail, you'll see here is the mail. And it's 29.5 megabytes because I'm using actual size, which means these are big pictures, okay? The problem is you should never email more than 10 megabytes because while your email may support it, who you're sending it to may not support more than 10 megabytes. So I could do less photos, or I could go over here and say, well, let's see how big large is. And you look at this, now it's 5 megabytes, and this is the actual size of what they're getting. And if somebody wanted to print this or something, they could let you know, hey, okay, well, yeah, these, however many photos that is, just send me these. So you can adjust it over here. And you can even go with what like a lot of emails would be like this. And you'll notice how it adjusts the size right here. So this is going to take up no overhead or anything else, and even medium. But if I go to actual size, which means the full size of what the iPhone generated, and some of these are raw pictures, this is 30 megabytes. So if you're sending it from an Apple account, it will go to iCloud if you want, but if just, I don't know why that's doing that. Oh, because it's giving me a message. It's too large. Did you see that message pop up? It was saying it was too large and it wouldn't go out. And by the way, If it couldn't go out, it would get stuck in my inbox or my outbox, sorry, as we said earlier. So anyway, this is mail. It gives you the ability, you'll notice this little pull down here. This is what's called markup. And with markup, I could go in here and I could add right there near Williams, CA, something like that. Okay, and I can move that around. I can put it up here. I can make it bigger. I can draw on the screen. Yeah, there'd be a spot. Oh, why isn't it working? Oh, there we go. You know, something like that. And that becomes part of what gets sent. All right. So we're going to go and show the same thing on the phone here now. And so in the phone, I'll go to email. I'm sorry, I'll go to Safari first. So in Safari, I go and I have to move the screen a little to get the little share box right down here. When I click the share box, I have this essentially the same menu I just saw before. So AirDrop is right there, different text. By the way, if it's, first of all, you never want to send videos by email because it's too large. If you want to send a lot of photos or a video to someone on an Apple device, you can send it by iMessage. So in other words, anybody you communicate with a blue text message, that means it's Apple device to Apple device. It will store these on the cloud, and you could have a 30-minute video that would then go by message to that person, and it would not go, it would get uploaded to the cloud and then from the cloud over to the other person. So that's how you do big things, as long as they're a blue message and not a green message when you send the text. In other words, that's an Apple device. So anyway, these selected photos, I could say here, email them. And when, oh, I'm sorry, this was Safari. So this is just a link. And then you can hit send, address it to whoever you want. Now we'll go back to photos. And in photos, I will hit select. And there's a little trick with photos. You can swipe across and swipe down with your finger, and you can select multiple things. So now I have a bunch of things. I go to the share box in the lower left. And mail will probably be too much. And it prepares it. Now it will maybe send it by email. So here's a bunch of the photos. It doesn't give me, let's see. I'm going to not send that many. I'm going to send like one photo, because I think it gives us the option. Oh, this was explaining Aurora Borealis. Yeah, it no longer gives you the choice of that. So it should have just said it. Yeah, so you want to be careful. Again, do it as text. Uh-oh. Well, we seem to have a problem here. Are you guys hearing me?
You hear
Yes.
it, you can't see your screen.
Audio's fine now.
Yeah.
Are you guys hearing me?
Yes,
Yes.
screen is dark though.
It still says up at the top that we're looking at your screen. Maybe we're getting BCC'd. You still there, Ken? I think we lost Ken.
I
Yeah,
think
the picture looks frozen.
I think he couldn't hear us when everybody was saying we could saw him or could hear him.
Yeah, he's not moving in his shot, screenshot.
I'm not getting anything but a dark screen.
Yeah, that's
Same
all
here.
we're seeing. Same. But Barbara, you're up next with a question, so let's wait till we get Ken.
The question is, I actually just got a bunch of photos that were messaged to me, and I can't figure out how to save them. I've tried everything I could think of. Does anybody know if somebody sends you a bunch of photos, as Kim was just describing, how to save them? To my photos?
I just drag them into photos.
Okay, so just.
Very simple.
So just reduce the size of the screen so it's not full screen and open up the Photos app.
You don't have to change the screen at all. You just drag them into the photos screen and it'll take care of itself.
So when I'm in the message, I open it and I see the photos, and then I just drag them from there into the
You need to have
photos.
photos open already.
Right.
I mean,
Can't you just hit Command S and menu will pop up to where to save them?
you don't need it. No, you don't need to hit any keys. You just drag the photos.
Yeah, I tried that and I
On the
couldn't get
photos,
anything.
and they'll import. You don't need to use anything on the keyboard.
Yeah, but what if she can't see where to drag them?
Then she needs to move some windows around so she can see what she's doing.
Yeah, I tried saving it and that didn't work.
Oh, Barbara, they could show up in recents or imports. They don't always land as the most recent in photos. But here, Ken looks like he's back. Barbara has a question, Ken.
I have no idea what happened there. My
We thought you went
screen,
to the great race.
We decided
My-
that we were being BCC'd.
Yeah.
yeah, well, and what's weird is I was sending that photo from my phone, not touching the computer, and everything went dark. So, well, thanks, Randy. Bring us up to speed. Barbara had a question. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, my question was, you were talking about sending photos with message, and I was saying that I just received a bunch of photos through messaging, and I couldn't figure out how to save them to my photo library. And
Sure.
Bob was saying just drag it over into the Photos app, because I tried saving it. I tried a bunch of stuff and I couldn't figure out what to do, but I didn't try dragging it.
Yeah, hang on one sec. I'll
And
bring
you
my
said
phone.
that, I thought you were talking from email, from messages.
Those messages.
And messages, you'll see a little icon just to the right of the photos that allows you to take actions.
Should be a square with a little arrow going down.
Yeah,
It's the same share,
Like downloading, right?
and but the weird thing is it says save image. It doesn't say anything about photo library.
Yeah. So that's not the share button, it's something else?
No, it is the share sheet. Hang on one sec here.
I thought it was the download arrow.
Yeah, wait, it looks
I
like
thought
they
that's what I saw.
changed it. I'm bringing mine up right now, but hang on a second here. So in
It
messages,
is a share arrow. I'm looking at one. And all you do is tap on it and that takes it over to photos. Yeah, that's what I just did. I tapped on that square and it's already in photos.
yeah, I think you can press and hold on it too.
The little square off to the top where it says the number of photos.
Yeah, hang on one sec.
One I was looking at on mine only had one photo.
Oh
so
yeah, on the right of
know.
it, that's a download and that's a save, but you press and hold on it.
I don't have that. I just have I have a 4 little squares next to the number of photos. I don't have a,
Well, that's because there's 4 photos.
it actually says there's.
Here, let me
20
pull my
here.
screen up. Hang on.
It actually says there's 20 photos on this one that I'm looking at.
Well, they're probably only showing you the 4. I mean, they're probably only show 4 boxes, but it means there's more.
Okay.
So hang on one sec. Gosh, that was weird. So if you go to a message, like you can see on my screen here,
Right?
and do you see this little icon to the right?
I don't have that.
Okay, so press and hold right in the center of the photo,
Okay.
and you get this menu.
Yep.
Save.
Okay.
Save puts it in your photos library.
Okay. It says show in photos. Is that going to be the same as save?
Are you running iOS 17?
Yeah, I've updated everything. Now it says it's been saved in my iCloud photo library.
Yeah.
So I guess somehow, something I did actually, I couldn't get it to save, but I guess something actually finally worked.
Yeah, but you should have this little box. So when things go weird, I'm going to give you guys the tip of the day. And Al, it's called hard reset.
Yeah.
And what I would recommend is on your iOS devices, the way you do hard reset, don't do it now, but I do it whenever things go weird. And in fact, yesterday I had to do it twice because I was not getting a cell connection, but my iPad was, so I know I was in a good range, and I did a hard reset. And a hard reset is, and it doesn't erase anything, it just gets rid of what I call cruft that's built up. So the sequence is you quickly press and quickly release the volume up button, then immediately go down and quickly press and quickly release the volume down button, and then quickly go to the other side of the phone where the power button is and press and hold it. And I'm going to show you what happens on the screen here. And I'm not going to, oops, that wasn't a screenshot. Let's see, volume up, volume down, press and hold. And when you get to this, don't do anything when you get that message. Continue holding until you see the Apple logo. And that don't just do a turn off, just do press and release the volume up, press and release volume down, press and hold the power button until you see the Apple logo. Disregard when you see it says slide to power off. And that's a hard reset. That's really good to do every so often.
So Ken, on the photo that's on your screen, the box I'm seeing has the arrow is pointing down. I thought that was download and the share, the arrow would be pointing up. Is that wrong?
No, the share sheet is an upward pointing arrow because that's usually when you're sending it to someone uploading. But there is, okay, let's go over this. So this is download, which means save it. Okay. Save it to your photos. If I go to a regular photo, let's say, the share box, oh, and unfortunately, because I'm connected, you don't see it. But actually, let's just do it in Safari so it'll display. So the share box is, because you're normally sending it. There
Right.
used to be a swooping arrow is what we used to see, but now it's the share box. And you'll notice in the share box, in photos, at one point you would get saved to your photo library. If it was in, well, actually, if I'll do it, I can go back to messages. So if I press and hold on this, I get more. Oh, that's not it. Well, actually, the swooping arrow, oop, that's not it. So, yeah, that downloads it and it just saw it go away. So the reason yours may not show up is you already have it in your library.
Okay.
You notice, I didn't notice that's a new action where it goes away like that. Okay. There's lots more on mail, but I think we covered the big ones, signatures, get rid of the old accounts and stuff. But let's open it up for questions and answers of anything, not just mail. And Louise, if you're still here, did we answer the question you had asked earlier? Oh, and Keith, I have an email from you. And let's see here. Go ahead, Keith, and ask your question.
Okay. I recently received a letter from my insurance provider. It says United Services Automobile Association.
Oh, yeah. And I pulled it up now. So, yes.
And they are suggesting that to make it more secure for them or me, my data, and to make it easier so I don't have to remember passwords, they want me to set up a voice recognition software system with them by going to their website and then calling them on the phone. So if I call them to ask a question of their customer service, their AI will recognize my voice and know who I am.
No.
And therefore, I don't need any passwords.
Keith, it's not their AI. That is simply called voice recognition. That don't conflate it with AI because AI is a scary term for everyone.
Okay.
But it brings up AI. So this is something that's been around for a while. Your voice print is more unique than your fingerprint. And until recently, it would be very, very secure. And in fact, your voice print, it's really, if you see that oscilloscope of your voice, it's very, very definitive. And if you have a cold, it will still look the same because the mechanics, the sound wave that you make is the same without tonal inflections. With AI and with what's called deep fakes, they can do some amazing things. As I showed you guys a month ago, the speech that the president of Argentina did, and it was in it was translated to English. It was his manner of speaking, but it was in English, and his lips matched the English words. That's how good AI has gotten. So after I got this email from Keith, because this question came up in the Apple user group, the other Apple user group too, is it safe? Well, I would have to say there is a perceived vulnerability that AI could do it. It would be some very sophisticated AI. And I would have to say it's still more secure than a password. Now, that being said, we are venturing away from passwords now and going to pass keys. And I've given a pass key presentation in the past when it was just starting. And the way a pass key works, your Apple device becomes the trusted device that is verified by your own biometric, whether it be Touch ID or Face ID. So in other words, it will eliminate the need for a password, because the vulnerability of a password is twofold. Most people write down their passwords. If someone was to break into your house, they're more than likely going to be able to find your passwords. So there's a vulnerability there. That's not a common thing. But the other thing is, if you're, as found out years ago with Target or Home Depot and places like that, when passwords are stored on their servers, your email address and your password, through no fault of your own, are vulnerable through their insecure stuff. Now, good sites will do a thing called hashing. And what that is it basically encrypts the passcode, and the computer only has the key to unencrypt it, because otherwise it looks just like gobbledygook. But it is a vulnerability. So nothing's perfect. But going to pass keys where your Apple device is the quote trusted device would be the same thing as if you had a key to your door and it was a key that no one else could make because it's a specific keyway. So no one could pick the lock or get in. Right now, with stored passwords, somebody can pick the lock and get in, and your passwords are exposed. And that's why it's good to have unique passwords for every site you visit. And you can go back to my passwords presentation on that to get a good handle on that. But just like using Apple Pay, where your device creates a one-time use number that if it gets intercepted, no problem, because it's a one-time use number that just got used, so therefore it's of no value. I'm going to give you the iPhone as the example. The majority of you have an iPhone that has Face ID on it. So when you upgrade to a pass key, which is sometimes seamless to you, you're no longer using a password to unlock, say, your Amazon account. What it's doing is it's verifying that this is, for instance, Keith McMahon's phone, and only Keith has access to his phone because of his biometrics. So therefore it's saying, rather than Keith having to type in a password or say a voice print, his device, he's the only one with access to it. So we're going to make it the trusted device, and that becomes a passkey. And so on both ends of the passkey, it's done so there can be no man-in-the-middle attacks. And what it means is the phone is your kind of like your little key to get into a building or things like that, that can't be, they could disassemble your phone and they would not be able to activate the passkey without your specific biometric input. So again, the device becomes trusted, not the password. You don't have to remember anything. And to be honest, by not having to write passwords down, but more importantly, not having those people store a password, you decrease the vulnerability dramatically. Now, the voice print is inherently more safe than that because you're not writing it down and someone would have to do sophisticated AI. Yes, it can be done. So if you had a large amount in a financial institution, if you enable voice print, you should then still have two-factor ID. If you have passwords, you should have two-factor ID. And with passkey, I don't think you need two-factor ID. And two-factor ID is where they text you or do something else to do it. Apple's made that so much easier now that when you get a text or an email and it comes in, it'll fill it in for you, so you don't even have to look at that number they give you. And a two-factor is very, very good. But you're only as good as your weakest link, and most of the time the weakest link is stored passwords at websites or written down passwords on your device. Now, that brings up the thing about storing passwords on your computer. You can do it in notes, and you can close the note. But I let my device store my passwords because it's in a complete secure enclave on the Apple device that no one can get into without your biometric input. And I do that instead of in places where I have money at risk, I do not let them store my password, with the exception of Apple, Google, and Amazon. Because I know those companies will spend a lot of money protecting those passwords. And they look at that like marketing, because they know if there was some sort of breach, that would decrease their stock value dramatically, and it would make people not buy stuff from them that way. So they take what would be marketing dollars and spend that towards security. And, they manage it pretty well, and you've not heard of any of those being hacked. So, you can be overly, and the other thing is, by the way, we don't have to worry about on our Apple devices, but on PCs, it's not common, but can happen. These things called keyloggers, where a malware is implanted in the computer remotely, and it basically records and transmits every single keystroke you make. So therefore, the entering of a password could be captured. But if your device stores the password and it fills it in, that's not a keystroke, so it can't be captured. In fact, back in the days when that was a big deal on Windows machines, the recommendation was to have a note with your password in it so you could copy and paste it, because the only key combination then it was Control-C for copy and Control-V for paste. And so therefore a keylogger couldn't intercept that password. So on the Apple device, though, it just fills it in. You let iCloud do it. It's stored in a secure enclave. They could take your Apple device completely apart, transplant it into another Apple device, and those things would not be out there and available. So, it's security versus convenience. And again, if you're worried about your Sacramento Bee subscription, hey, so what if they hack your password? If you're talking about banks, as long as it's a personal account and not a business account, you are completely covered, unless they can. The way it works is, on a personal account, if you get compromised, they have to prove you were negligent. In a business account, if it gets compromised, you have to prove you weren't negligent. Now, the majority of banks, and that applies to business credit cards too, the majority of the banks will take care of all that. They know what fraud is. And the best thing is they have pretty good fraud protection. So, you're pretty well covered on that. But financial, like stock, places where your stock holdings are and things like that, make sure you have two-factor, make sure you have a lot. In fact, you can even go into those institutions and tell them that you need another level of security in case somebody tries to wire transfer anything, because it brings up, they have to, you'll have to get more verification that it wouldn't work. And remember, there's a lot of easy vulnerable targets out there. It's kind of like the old days when a flashing red light in a car, the people wouldn't even this is again a long time ago. They wouldn't even touch the car because they just move on to another car that doesn't have a flashing red alarm light in the car. Obviously things have changed, but it's kind of the way it is. So Keith, I hope that answers your question. I can't be definitive about it, but I would, to me, I think it's all about comfort level, and whatever you're most comfortable with is what you should do, because otherwise it's going to be constantly, you're going to be worried about it.
Okay,
right.
thank you for the comments.
Thanks. Lisa, go right ahead.
You talked about a hard reset for the iOS devices. Is there a comparable method for Mac, iMac?
More or less on the Intel Macs, just basically a restart.
Okay.
I'm sorry, on the Intel Macs, a start, or you can do what's called zapping the pram or do an SMC power reset. There's not an equivalent on the Apple Silicon, but a restart pretty much does it.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, I have tried at least 2 or 3 times to get the Touch ID to work on my MacBook Pro, and it never recognizes my fingerprint. So I don't know what I am not doing that it isn't responsive, but can you give me some suggestions for how to try?
Well,
and get
first of all,
darn
make sure
thing works?
your fingers are clean.
Yep, I did.
And then you just rest it on it. You don't push down.
Yep, I did that too.
And is it start to take it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And
Put
I tried.
Put a little moisturizer on your finger or lick your finger.
Okay.
Oh, actually, do one thing for me, since I can see you on the screen. Look up. Do me a favor. Put your right hand on your stomach.
Yes.
And put your left hand on your head. And hey, and that's what it feels like sometimes. But actually, and you might get a little alcohol wipe and make sure the fingerprint reader spot is okay too.
Okay.
And boy, beyond that, I don't know, because it's I've never seen it not read somebody. I've seen it fail after a while, which brings up another point. If it works for a while and then after 6 months it stops working, don't delete the other fingerprint. Add the same finger again, because depending on the amount of moisture inside our body, our fingerprint changes a little bit. So now you're recording, let's call it your summer and your winter fingerprint. And therefore it does that. That's not the case in yours. This is after you've successfully got one finger to work. You want to do it, and you do the same finger each time. So and you just rest it on it. If you know someone else that has a fingerprint reader device on their computer, you should try it on theirs to see if it's your device specifically. Or someone else's finger, come over and try it, because I've never seen it not work.
Yeah,
You're on a laptop,
adding
right?
new fingerprints, and that didn't help either.
What?
I tried adding new fingerprints.
No, but you're not able to add it is the problem. It's not reading it. Is it a laptop?
Yes.
I would make a recommendation that you take it to a Genius Bar.
Okay.
And have them try their fingerprint. That way you'll know if it's the reader or your finger.
Okay.
There's one other factor, Ken.
Yeah.
Some of us very elderly people, our ridges are so flattened from being on this planet for so many years that I've run into this helping people here in my community. It is very, very hard for the equipment to read what's left.
Right, but it still at least recognizes you're trying to put a fingerprint in.
Yeah,
right?
true.
And see, I think that's so that sounds like what's holding Barbara up.
Could you try a fingernail file or something and just maybe clean off the surface layer a little bit?
Of the finger?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a moisturizer would be better.
Okay.
But again, and if you have someone else, try their finger first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Don't pull their finger, but
and drink lots of water before, so that you have
well,
your body.
No, don't, because then you'll have a wrong fingerprint. And then you'll have to do, like I said, a summer and winter fingerprint. And that's really what happens. You only want to change certain things. So, or if you know someone that has an external keyboard that has the fingerprint reader, you could try plugging that in and seeing. So
do you have to make a Genius Bar appointment now, or can I just walk over to the Apple store?
I would make a Genius Bar appointment, because then they'll give you, if they've got 15 minutes, they'll give you, and if it's busy, you're not, you're fine.
And do I do that on the Apple website?
Yeah, actually, the easiest thing on the phone, there's an Apple support
Yep.
app, and if you go through there, it's the easiest way to get in to do the Genius Bar.
Okay, thank you. I'll try that.
Yeah, good question, and that's interesting. And the fact that it just isn't kind of taking your finger at all is what's very interesting. Because many people, their index finger is really worn down, and you don't have to use your index finger. It's the most convenient, but it just sounds like it's not reading it. So you may even have a defective Touch ID.
Yeah, and I tried a different finger because I had created prints with different fingers. I tried both of them, didn't work.
Yeah. All right, Bev,
good
go
try.
for it.
Yes, I'm an Apple Mail, and when I click on something, it's going to open up a link to the web. I have a default setting where it goes to Chrome. How do I change it to where it would open in Safari?
And are you on Sonoma?
No, I think I'm on the one before.
Okay, it might be the same.
I am on Ventura 13.5.
Okay, if you can go to Sonoma, you should. But let me see here. Hang on. General.
Yeah, because I have the M2 chip.
Because they've changed this. And I think it might be in regular settings. And it's a simple Google, set default browser.
Okay.
Hang on.
Long time ago, you used to have to go to Chrome to set Safari.
Oh,
Right.
I don't know if that's still true.
Default browser. Okay, I found it. Desktop and Stage Manager. Yeah, see, and this is in Sonoma. So I just did a search in settings for browser, and I came up with default browser, and it's under desktop and dock, a little ways down, and under widgets, it says default web browser, and you select it, Safari there.
and where I go out of Mail and go.
No, well, yeah, so it has nothing to do with Mail.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the default browser for anything. So go to System Settings.
Okay, so go to the Apple icon, System
Yeah.
Settings.
Yeah. Or yours might say System Preferences.
Yeah.
And then do you have Desktop and Dock, or up in the search part, just type in browser.
On desktop and dock, yeah.
And then down below widgets, it says default web browser.
Widgets, that way down there or something?
Well, like I said, go into the search window in settings there and just type in the word browser, and it will come up with suggestions.
Okay.
And I don't know on Ventura, but on this, it's that. Okay.
Anything to be aware of on switching from?
No, it'll just mean that anything you click goes there, and you should stop using Chrome because it's a spy, and it's a huge resource hog on your system.
Yeah, I'm trying to transition, and so updating to the new operating system is seamless.
I'm not going to say that. It never is.
That's why I don't update.
It should be, but it's really good now.
Yeah, don't jinx it.
Yeah. All right, Lena, go ahead with your question, and this will probably be the last one.
Okay, these are just two comments from before. One, the fingerprints. I've been fingerprinted many times for my job, and I do not have fingerprints, so I understand it has to go to DOJ, so that it can be an issue. And the other thing is about Gmail. Many organizations use Gmail as their backup, and CalPERS was hacked for just their retirees. They got all the information, so I didn't know how safe Gmail, not Gmail, but Google is for any of that.
Well, it was an old list of
It was
wasn't current.
And that has nothing to do with Google.
Oh, okay. I thought that they had the big servers that they store the information.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be on Google servers, I don't think. It's probably Amazon.
Okay.
Unless, and they're farming it out somewhere. But again, that's a portal of data, and it's not like they came in through the email or anything else. It's
Okay.
yeah. So,
Right.
and it just, but you know, everybody's vulnerable, and I just go with the bigger ones that are, um, they're big enough that they spend the dollars to try be more secure.
Okay.
And I mean, it's weird. I used to think, I used to give an example of, um, it's, I used to think there was there was anonymity by you were obscured because there was so much data. And I used to give the example of, it's really when the Rose Bowl game is going on, it's very hard to hide yourself in that stadium and not be noticed. But if you're in an elevator, it's very hard to be anonymous and hide. And so I thought, wow, throw your data is where the most amount of data is. But now, as I explained in the AI presentation, with machine learning and all the stuff that they can derive from that data, no longer is so much data an obstacle that gives you anonymity, because it can be harvested so well. So and it's the sad reality these days. You just gotta, and you talk about everybody's had their email not their email, but their addresses, because that's usually your username and all that. So I'm a firm believer that any of your financial institutions or any important things, you periodically, and I'm not saying all the time, but periodically change that email address and make that email address more secure, have two-factor authentication, and then use one or two special characters at the end, because every special character you put in, you're less vulnerable to them guessing it. But remember, most of these hacks happen, they actually get the password with it, and that's where passkeys are going to help, because that information is not going to be stored somewhere and there's no link back to it. But even Apple does a really good job of saying, hey, yeah, this one's been compromised and all that. But you know what? You just got to assume they've all been compromised. But I wholeheartedly believe that everyone should have their credit frozen. And if you go to clark.com, credit freeze, do a Google search for clark.com and say credit freeze. He has a primer to do it with the three main credit reporting agencies, and it's free and it's very good. Now, things like LifeLock and stuff like that, LifeLock, you get better service if you freeze your credit, because the difference is LifeLock will support you when the horses have left the barn. They're going to help you go get the horses. But it's so much better if the horses never leave the barn. And that's what a credit freeze does. It makes it so someone could have all your information, including your social security number. But unless they had your little secret PIN number you get when you establish a credit freeze, there's no way they can get credit in your name. And so I sleep very well at night, because even one of the credit reporting agencies, Experian, was completely hacked and all that information got out. And the problem with the credit bureaus is, just like with Facebook, you think you're the customer, but you're not. You're the product. The customer is the people that are trying to get your demographics. And that's what these credit agencies bank on. And they, believe me, they're not out to do customer service for you when stuff happens. So the other advantage to that is you'll get less of the offers in mail and stuff like that about all these different credit cards and things. But credit freeze, and I highly recommend you also get a Credit Karma account, and you do that before you freeze your creditkarma.com, because it will alert you if someone's trying to use your social security number to get credit. And you want to do the Credit Karma first before you freeze your credit, because otherwise you would have to thaw your credit. Now, once your credit's frozen, there's a slight a slight inconvenience in that if you were to apply for a credit card, it'll come back and say your credit's frozen. Then you ask them which agency was it, and oh, it turns out it's TransUnion. So you immediately go to TransUnion. You thaw your credit with your secret PIN code, which you can write down and store it somewhere because they got to have all your info, and the PIN's not that critical. But anyway, you would thaw your credit for 3 days or something like that, and then boom, it goes right through. But believe me, people aren't getting compromised less. And if anybody has ever had their identity stolen, you know that it was like having a 6-month full-time job trying to get all of that rectified, and it's not good. And that's totally different from your credit card numbers getting compromised. One does not lead to the other. It's totally about identity theft. So I highly recommend I sleep very well at night, and I don't care because I know they can't open any credit in my name. So.
One last thing, Ken, this has been such a helpful class. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, gladly. I'm glad,
all your knowledge.
glad we got some stuff done. So
over the top, wonderful. Thank you. Very
great.
helpful.
Well, welcome. Thank you. I love it. So that being said, unless there's any other questions, the board will reconvene in 35 minutes, and that's about it. Oh, and don't forget, as we showed in email, actually, I should unshare here, but Party of the Century is tonight at 8 p.m. at 123 Main Street or whatever the heck it was. So anyway, don't miss it. And the password is Open Sesame. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and I should show you, see my picture here. I leave for the Great Race on June 15th, and we go to we'll take probably 4 days. We're the cars, the 1953 MG that you see right here will be in the trailer being towed by Brent's pickup truck. That's my best friend Brent, who I ski with. He owns the car. The history of this car is really cool. It's a 1953 MG. His parents bought the car. He's 70. He'll be 70-year-old old next week. His parents bought this car when he was 4 years old. They're second owners. He had his first date, and he took his driver's test in this car. And we just had the motor rebuilt, and we used this car for the Great Race. And last year at the finish line, I'm the navigator, and we have a ceremonial finish line. And his 92-year-old mother flew out, who is the one that taught him to drive the car. And we promptly put her in the navigator seat, and she came across the finish line in that. And it actually made the Colorado Springs newspaper and all that. And it's so cool. So Peggy is one of my favorite people on earth. She's a pistol. 92 years old. She takes like no pills, and he's a doctor. So, I mean, she's in good stead. She only recently just stopped selling tickets at Heavenly Valley for skiing. And when she taught him to drive the car, Brent, who drives race cars now, and skis, he's coached ski racing. He and I met on the Pro Tour years ago. But anyway, he lives up in Zephyr Cove, Nevada. And she's out with him, showing him in the parking lot how to drive the car and going around corners and stuff. And she goes, "No, you got to do this." And she gets in the car and she starts kind of drifting the car through the corners and showing her son how you should really drive the car. So, and both his dad and his mom were car aficionados. Unfortunately, he lost his dad to a heart attack at around 55 years old. And thank goodness he had, unbeknownst to his dad, had taken this car down to Delta College in Stockton, and the auto mechanics there, and they rebuilt this car completely. And his dad didn't know it. They went to a car race in Laguna Seca, and he unveiled the new rebuilt car of their 1953 car down there for him. And it was like within a month, his dad passed away. So it was really, really amazing. So the car has great history, and it's super fun. And I'm just looking forward to Lobster in Maine. We're going from Owensboro, Kentucky to Maine. So I will be gone for the next meeting and the first Saturday. Oh, and the best part is I'm sticking around in Boston because we finish on June 30th and or actually really July 1st. And I've got tickets to see the fireworks in Boston Harbor for 4th of July. So I'm stoked about that. First time back there. So
Good to
anyway, thanks for indulging me. Talk to everyone later.
know. All right.
Al, make sure you got the chat saved.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Good deal.
Ken.
Thank you.